to be decorating the Pretty in Pink cookie kit. You would have received 6 cookies, 2 of each design, 4 icing bags, a white, a pink, a brown, and a light pink, 2 cookie scribes, which we will be using these toothpicks, and then you will just need to simply grab yourself some scissors and a paper towel. All right, let's get started. All right, so our first step is just simply practicing, because practice does make perfect, especially in cookies. So before we jump right on the cookies, you have a practice sheet in front of you, and we're just gonna go down all of the different shapes and lines and just build on our technique so we learn how to do that first. So once you have your practice sheet in front of you, go ahead and grab any color. I suggest a color other than white, simply so that you can see it on the paper. Now to cut your bag, you just want to place the seam of the bag facing the ceiling, and then squeeze a little bit of the icing to the tip of the icing bag. And these are tipless bags, so this will create a really nice oval or round tip that you can then pipe on. So once you have placed your bag up, you just want to cut the tip off just a little bit, and then you're all set there. And then you can even test it on like a napkin. Then what you want to do is, I always like to start at the top of the paper so that your hand doesn't drag into your icing. And you would anchor your icing by just squeezing a little bit and then slowly pulling it. You're actually not dragging your piping tip on your cookie or this paper. It's just slightly above. And I like to use my other hand to guide. And when you hold that piping bag, you're going to be holding it so that it kind of just cups right into your hand, and then you're squeezing with your fingers. So you want to anchor it and then slowly pull it while you're squeezing. Now you can do a few lines. The dots are just simply anchor it and then squeeze up. Because this icing has been thinned out a little bit, you won't get that Hershey Kiss look. And then you can do some of your squiggles as well. Now this is super intricate, where you just have to move ever so slightly up and down to get that curve. And then whenever you are done doing that, you then will be ready to do the shapes. So this is simply anchor your icing and use the same technique as far as squeezing, re-anchoring it to the cookie once the shape turns. Just repeating that process. You can do this as often as you'd like, and you can even practice on a tissue or on a paper towel, and then we'll get ready for the cookies. Our first design is going to be this really pretty dress cookie, but because of all the intricate skirting detail, we're actually going to be jumping between a few cookies. So you might need to just press pause and put this cookie to the side while it dries. So like I've shown you earlier, you're going to want to snip your bags. So remember that the seam up to the ceiling, and then just snip the corner there, the tip there. You should be all set. And we're going to start by doing all of these different intricate details on the base of the dress. So you're going to anchor your icing, come around, and you can really make this as detailed as possible, or as many as you'd like. And this will be flooded with the same icing, but at different times to give you different technique looks, and just different looks altogether. Doesn't have to be identical to mine, but you just want to make a bunch of different ruffles. And then repeat that on the other side. Remember, you don't want to drag your icing. You want it to just fall down. Once you've made all your outlines, then we're going to fill in. Now we're not filling in right next to one another, because then that wouldn't give us this bumpy look, which just means that the icing has dried a little bit more before you've gone into the next layer. If you didn't wait, then what would happen is they would all just bleed together. So fill out each and every one. So you want to fill out the one, and then you want to skip this part and then go to the next design. Now a great technique here would be going along the edge of the icing to give it kind of a good flood. And then you can take your toothpick and just slightly swirl and pull down. And then this icing is 20-second icing, so what it will actually do is just fall into itself. So try to outline the icing first. Now I am using a lot more pressure than I was when I outlined. All right, now sometimes if you see that there's just a little bit more of a crease in the flooded area, you can just wiggle the cookie or tap it a little bit. All right, now we're gonna want to let this dry just about 5 minutes before we would flood in the other parts. But we'll move on to the top of the dress and the other cookies as well. But go ahead and pause the video to do this portion. So go ahead and grab your icing bag, and you're gonna wanna massage it just a little bit before you cut the tip. That's only to incorporate all the different ingredients together, just in case they were sitting for a day. So you then would cut the tip the same way we've discussed before. And we're gonna make the hanger here. So you just wanna have a thicker spot at the bottom and then kind of come up, and you can pipe this multiple times. The icing will still fold into itself. Do the same at the bottom there on the other side, and then do a little nice swirl for the hanger top. Okay, and then we will go in with the coral color, or you can even use the other color if you'd like. We're gonna do the top of the dress. You can make this however you like. This is just my interpretation of this really pretty dress. Once I did the outline, I can go in and flood. Remember to outline first with the flood icing. After you have outlined, then it'll just give it a nice cleaner edge instead of always nicking the flooded icing edge. Now right here, if you want to have this so that it's like a really nice A-cut dress, you can kind of take your scribe into the center there and just pull down a little, creating a nice point. Then we can add the straps. Now we're still waiting for this dress to dry a little before we add the white. So go ahead and finish the cookie. So now that we have finished most of this cookie, we want to just push this off to the side, and you would have decorated 2 of them at this point. Just push them right off to the side so that the bottom part of the dress can dry, and then we're actually going to start decorating our bow cookie. And just be very careful so that you don't bump the icing. All right, so what we're gonna wanna do is outline the entire cookie in white and flood this in. I like to pipe clockwise, so from right to left. Remember not to touch the cookie. And then every time you have a turn, you wanna anchor the icing. And if there's like a curve, you want to just move your hand with the cookie to create that curve. Then you're going to apply more pressure and outline the cookie again, except this time you're just butting that flood icing right up against the outline. This method that we're going to be doing for this cookie is going to be wet on wet, which means the second color will fall into the first color. So it'll just give it a nice layered look. All right, and then use your little scribe, and in between all the different colors, make sure you're wiping your scribe on your paper towel. If at all you're working with your cookie and you need it to be at a different angle, you can totally just flip it and move your cookie around. It's not a problem. And I do, in fact, scrape the cookie underneath. I'm not just right on top of the icing, just moving around the icing. I'm moving the icing from scratching the cookie underneath. Little swirly motions help as well. All right, then at this point, most of the icing will have been thinned out and flooded, but you can kind of tap the cookie a little bit. And if you ever get this runoff edge here, you can take your scribe and you can just cut that edge to just clean it up and then wipe it on your paper towel. To kind of help you clean up your cookies if your flood has flooded off the cookie. All right, now we're going to take our pink, our light pink, and do the underneath layer first. And we'll just create kind of like a center here. Kind of do like a bubble. And then you want a big loop above. Then another big loop above. And then you're gonna come down with the one side of the bow and then the other side. Now we're not filling in these two upper loops, we're just filling in the bottom loop. And because your icing is wet, you want to kind of do this layered look, so you don't want to dig into the icing. You just want to kind of paint it on right on top. And then take your scribe, and instead of digging into your icing, you're just going to move it around very gently on top, filling in all of that space. Now let's do the bottom part. The ribbon tails. Again, every time I made that point, I anchored it into the icing. And then you're just going to paint that right on top. And then use your scribe again to move it around. Right, then at this point, we need to do the same thing that we did to the dress, where we have to let it sit for a little bit just to dry so that we can put this top layer on, and then it will be risen just a little bit off the cookie. So go ahead and pause the video, do both of your bows, and we'll come back and start the hearts. Our next two designs are going to be identical, except we're going to be doing a pull-through motion in the second design. So let's get ready to do this line work, and you practiced your lines earlier, so you should be all set. We're going to do what we've done in all the other cookies, so do a base flood. So take your icing color, the pink, and trace your cookie. Remember not to drag your icing. Whenever you're going to be at an angle there or move different direction, you're going to want to anchor it back onto your icing, your cookie, and then outline it, but using more pressure. filling it in. Taking your scribe now and just moving the icing around in a circular motion. Just remember to kind of always color in the lines, so make sure you don't nick that main flood line that we did earlier with your scribe. And then just give it kind of like a good little tap just to make sure it floods all out. Now you're gonna need pink and you're gonna need white, and we're gonna do alternating lines. But instead of picking up the pink bag and then the white bag, we're just gonna make all pink lines, and then we're gonna do the line in between all white lines. So I like to angle my cookie. We're just letting this icing fall into. Now, if this happens, that's completely fine. You can go back in and just add a little bit more icing. You won't even notice. Make sure you're leaving enough space in between the lines so that you can get another color. And make sure you're not dragging the tip of the icing bag in the cookie. Now we're gonna go in with white. And because all of this icing is the same consistency, it'll all fall into itself. So you can stop here, or you can take it a step further. And that's when I talked earlier about this really fun design. If you choose to do this design, you're gonna wanna do it as soon as you place the icing where it is. So what you wanna do is you wanna take the tip of your scribe and you're gonna pull through your icing. And after each pull, you're gonna just wipe it off. And then you're gonna go in the different direction. You're gonna pull down and then you're gonna pull up. And then you're gonna wipe off after every time. And then if by chance you go too far, you can just fix that a little bit. And then you can give this icing just a little bit of a tap, but it'll all flood into one another as soon as you're done. So go ahead and pause the video and work on this step. At this point, you would have completed almost all the cookies, but we have to go back in time a little bit and fill in where we have created for the dress pleats. So go ahead and grab the dress cookie and just fill the icing in. Now be very careful, and sometimes I like to push so hard that it just all comes out as one, so I barely have to touch it. But you can still go in with your scribe and you can move that around a little bit. But do not bump into the cookie icing, or else you're gonna kind of damage that wall there. So you can keep doing the same thing. Now, if you just can't squeeze all the way down, you can start and you can go down one side and then up. Just pull that in a little bit. With some swirly motions to move the icing around. All right, then at this step, you can kind of stop and again wait just a few more minutes before you fill in this last thing, but I'm gonna go and finish the bow while this dries. While the dress is drying, we're gonna put the finishing touches on the bow. And I'm gonna use the darker pink here. So now we just wanna do the center again, so kind of create that little cloud-like center. You can kind of come down, two of them, to the ribbon. And then retrace the top there. Make sure you're not covering up the pink. You still want that dimension. Do another loop there as well, in the center. And then we're not gonna finish this loop fully. There. And you can even make this, I think this being a little thicker would look nice. Just gonna go back. All right. And that completes the bow, so you can go ahead and finish that yourself as well. All right, we're at the home stretch here, and we're just gonna put the final touches on the dress cookie. So we've waited about 3 minutes, and now we're just gonna fill in these last few little touches. All right, we're all set. So thank you so much. I hope you're having a lot of fun doing this and hope to see you at one of my classes and at Just in Time Catering. Thanks.